I think. I'm going to confirm with one of you later, but this, right, it's 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Just a little practice. All right, 14. Here we go. The first thing I want to see, and again, just for you to get comfortable, we have a number we don't know of, which in this case they're calling it v. And it's being multiplied by -6. Remember, that sign belongs to 6. So it's being multiplied by -6. And then what kind of 10 is this? Well, if you want to find what kind of 10 this is, what kind of 10 that is, look to its left, here. Right? So that's a positive 10. Because if it was negative, there would be a sign. But when there is no sign, think of it as an invisible plus sign there. So number I'm thinking of, v, is being multiplied by -6, and then we're adding 10 positive to it. We write plus 10, and then somehow that is giving me -104. So what number did I start with? That's our question. So again, inverse operation. So the first thing I'm going to do is the opposite of plus 10, which is -10, and the opposite of multiply by -6, which is divide by yeah, well, let's do what we have to do. First thing, it says subtract 10. So under this 10, which is positive, I'm going to write -10. And under this -104, I'm going to write -10. 10 minus 10 is 0, so this two go away. And then -6v comes down. And then here, if it's easier, I mean, if you can't see it, write it horizontally like this, right? You're going to have a calculator, so you can use a calculator. So -104 minus 10 is -114.
Please pardon the interruption. Ms. Gilroy, please call the main office. Ms. Gilroy, please call the main.
Right, -114. So we did this, which is subtract 10 from both sides, and then we're going to now divide both sides by -6. And why am I dividing by -6? Because my coefficient here is -6, and if I divide by -6, guess what happens? A negative and a negative becomes a positive, and I don't have to worry about the negative anymore. So I'm going to divide both sides, this side by -6 and this side by -6. Here we go. -6 divided by -6 is 1, and I end up with 1v, a positive v. And -114 divided by 6, well, it's a negative divided by negative first of all, right? So that's going to give me a positive. And 114 divided by 6 is 19. So the number I started with, my mystery number, v, that I started with, is 19. Let's do a check. Remember how to do a check. Copy the original equation. 6 times v equals -104. Right, so notice that there's not much to do on the right side. It's just -104. So I'm just going to add a couple lines here. But on the left side, it's 10 minus 6 times v. And what is v? v is 19. So I'm going to replace that with 19. Let's do order of operations. We have a subtraction, multiplication. Who do we do first? We do the multiplication. So 10 minus and 6 times 19 ends up being 114. Yeah, continue one more line. Right side's already -104. And what's 10 minus -114? It's actually -104. So our solution is 19, and our check came out to be correct because the left side equals the right side. Okay. 16, again, same thing. We have, let's understand what's happening. We have a variable, we're going to call it x, and it's being multiplied by -9. And then somehow we're subtracting 13, and that gave us -103. So what number did I start with? And that's the question. So going backwards, we're going to use the inverse operation of -13, which is +13, and then we're going to do the opposite of multiplied by -9, which is divide by -9. Line in the middle. So +13 on both sides, and +13, notice that I put it under the -13, right? Hopefully that makes sense, because those two are like terms, and I can combine them. And then +13 on the other side. -13 and +13, that additive inverse, so that gets me to 0, right? So I'm going to just do that. I'm left with -9x on the right side. And on the left side,
Ms. Strax, please come to the main office. Ms. Strax, please come to the main.
-90. Right, so we did that. So now it's saying, hey, please divide both sides by -9. So show me divide by -9, and then show me on the other side divide by -9. Right, so we get, equals. On the right side, -90 divided by -9. So negative divided by negative, which is positive. 90 divided by 9 is 10. Good. On the left side, -9 and divided by -9 is positive, and 9 divided by 9 is just 1 or 1x. But we don't need to write the 1, right? So we're just going to simply leave it at x. So the answer, apparently, is 10. So the number I was thinking of in the beginning was 10. Let's do our check. -9 times x minus, I can't see the number, minus 13 equals -103. So how do we do this? Let me just write -103 a couple of times because we don't need to do anything there. We're going to take the x, and wherever we see the x, I'm going to replace it with 10, right? So -9 times 10 minus 13. Order of operations, what do we do first? The multiplying, there's a multiplication. So it's a negative times a positive, which is going to be a negative. 9 times 10 is 90.
Ms. Gilroy, please come to the main office. Ms. Gilroy, please come to the main.
Minus 13. And 90 minus 13 is -103, which, look at that, it equals the other side. So the answer that we got, 10, makes this equation true. So okay, 18, sorry. Again, what's happening here? I am thinking a number m, mystery number, call it m. I'm multiplying by 7, sorry. And then I'm subtracting 10, and that gives me -10. The inverse operations that I'm going to use is going to be opposite of -10, which is +10, and opposite of multiply by 7, which is divide by 7. Line in the middle. So let's start with +10, so I'm going to put +10 over here, and +10 over here. -10 plus 10, that gives me 0. So I have 7m left over. And -10 plus 10 on the left side gives me 0. But this 0 I need to write, because I can't leave it blank like this, right? So I actually have to write 0. What's the next step? I did that. We'll divide this side by 7, right? It says divide the other side by 7. Let me put my line in the middle, sorry. 7 divided by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1, and 1 times m is just m. And what's 0 divided by 7? Well, 0 divided by 7 is just 0. So the number I was thinking of in the beginning is 0. So let's say if 0 makes my equation true. So -10 equals -10 plus 7 times 0, right? Because I'm replacing the m with 0. So -10. On this side, let's do order of operations. Multiplication comes first, so we have to do these two. 7 times 0 is 0. And then let me put -10 plus 0, right? So -10 equals, and -10 plus 0 is just -10. So we are good. 0 makes this equation true. Next one. M is the number I started with. I divided by 9, and then I'm subtracting 1, and that gave me -2. So what did I start with? Well, inverse operation, instead of -1, I'm going to add 1. Instead of divide by 9, I'm going to multiply by 9. So those two will help me find the value of m. Line in the middle, so the first thing we do is add 1, right? So +1 right under the -1, and then +1 under the -2 there. So -1 and +1 are additive inverse, so they become 0. M over 9 is the only thing that's left over on the left side. What's -2 plus 1 is -1. Then I'm told, hey, multiply both sides by 9. So I'm going to do that. Multiply this guy by 9, and multiply this guy by 9. Notice that on the left side, it makes you a little easier to see. Put the 9 over 1. So remember, we can simplify this, right? So think of it as 9 divided by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. So everything becomes a 1. 1 times m over 1 is just m. On the right side, -1 times 9, and negative times a positive is a negative, and 1 times 9. So apparently, m has a value of 9. Let's check. So m over 9 minus 1 equals -2. So remember what we're doing. We're replacing this m here, right, with what we found, and we found that m was apparently -9, so let's see if that's true. Change colors. And let's do this. So, order of operations, so this one is -2, so let's do division, because that's -9 divided by 9 minus 1, so we have to take care of the division first, which is right here, right, this guy right here, oops. So negative divided by a positive is a negative, and what's 9 divided by 9? It's 1. Then let's subtract 1. -1 minus 1, guess what? It's -2, which it does equal the -2 on the other side. 22. Okay, 22, before we do this, right, to see what's going on, we have to do the distributive property. This multiplies this, and this multiplies this. Right, we got to get rid of the parentheses. 7 times 9, they're both positive, great, so that's 63. And 7 times k, they're both positive, makes life easier. So plus, and 7 times k is just 7k. Now this is in the format that's familiar to us. So the letter that we're going to start with is k. What's happening to it? It's multiplying by 7 and then adding 63. And then somehow the answer ended up being 64. So the inverse operations, the two inverse operations we're doing, is going to be 1, subtract by 63, and then divide by 7. So let's do that. So step 1, subtract 63, and please put it under the other 63. On the right side, 64 minus 63 is 1. 63 minus 63 is 0, the additive inverse, so that goes away. And then positive 7k comes down. So, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. So, I'll show you where my mistake is. My mistake was here. This is not 64, it's 84. Okay, so going back to the inverse operation. So the first thing we do is subtract 63 from this side and subtract 63 from this side. Minus. These two go away, they're additive inverse, so it becomes 0. Positive 7k comes down. And 84 minus 63 is 21. We just did that. Step 2, divide both sides by 7. That's what that says. So I'm going to line the middle again, divide this by 7, and divide this by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 1 times k is just k, and 21 divided by 7 is 3. So apparently, our mystery number, the value of k is 3. Go back to the original equation. 9 plus k equals 84. So remember, I'm replacing that k, so I'm going to erase it now. And I'm going to put the number 3, because that's what we found k to be. So right here, k equals 3. 84. Order of operations. So now you have a choice. You can do this distributive property, or you can do the parentheses first and then multiply by 7. My suggestion is, right, so there's 7 times parentheses 9 plus 3. So I'm going to do 7 times. And inside the parentheses, 9 plus 3 is 12. Now you get to multiply these two. 7 times 12 is 84, which equals 84 on the other side. Good. So far, so good. And 24, again, there is parentheses, so we have to do the distributive property. Okay, so negative 243 equals, so we're going to multiply these two and these two. So first is negative 9, and what kind of 10 is that? It's a positive, so a negative times a positive is a negative, and 9 times 10 is 90. Remember, there's a 1 here, right, in front of the x? So negative 9 and positive 1, so it's a negative times a positive, which is a negative, and 9 times 1 is 9, and don't forget the x. Now I can do this. I have a number I don't know of, which is called x. It's being multiplied by what? Remember, that 9 is now negative, so it's being multiplied by negative 9, and then subtract 90. That's what's happening. And somehow that's equaling 243. So what's x? Well, that's what we're going to find out. First inverse operation is going to be adding 90, and the second one is going to be divide by the opposite, divided by negative 9. Line in the middle. So the first thing we do is add 90. Plus 90, and then let me write plus 90 on this side. So notice that the 90s are going to go away, right? Because they're additive inverse, they equal to 0. Negative 90 plus 90 is 0. So the only thing left over is negative 9x. Be very careful with that. And on the other side, 243, negative 243 plus positive 90 is going to be negative 153. Now we do divide by, we got to divide both sides by negative 9. So here's my symbol, divide by negative 9, line in the middle, by the way, and divide by negative 9. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. Great. So 9 divided by 9 is 1. So that's x. And 153 divided by 9, I have no idea. Well, but apparently it's positive 17 because a negative divided by negative is positive. Good. So 17 is our number. Let's double check. We have to go back to our original equation. Negative 9, 10 plus x. Right? So that's my original equation. I'm going to leave that this one, and I'm going to 243 equals negative 9 parentheses 10 plus, and instead of the x, I'm going to write the number we found, which is 17. Right? That's what substitution is. You remove the variable, and you replace it with the value that we found. So negative 243. Let's do order of operations. Remember, there's a multiplication sign there. So we're going to do the parentheses first. So we got negative 9. And what's 10 plus 17? 10 plus 17 is 27. Negative 243, and let's do our last thing. It's negative 9 times 27. Let's just confirm. It's 243. Negative. And that's that. Hopefully you got some practice.